Okay, so the word trait. Yesterday we said this. We said something about a gene and a trait. So what's a trait?
Like something you get like from your mom and dad.
Something you get from your mom and dad. Okay, that works. What else? What else did y'all think about? Genes. So the traits we usually are talking about come from your genes. Exactly. Okay. All right. So Annette's hair. Acquired or genetic? Acquired. Okay, so anything you get while you're living, you cannot pass on to your kids because it's not in what kind of cells are you passing on to your kids. Somatic body cells or your sex cells or gametes? Sex cells. So because that wasn't her original hair color, there's no way she can pass it on. If that was true, then we could do anything to our bodies and we could pass that on to our kids while we're alive. So we know that's different. Okay, next, adaptation. Okay, so adaptations. Your animals have to have 10 adaptations. Okay. Something that could change over time. Okay. What's an adaptation? As a verb, adapting is changing to survive. Okay. If we said that this beak would be an adaptation for scooping fish, then what is it? What's different about an adaptation trait? Go back to what you just said. What do they help you to do? Survive. So it is a trait that helps you to survive. All right, so what does it mean to survive? Stay alive. You survive, you stay alive. And that is at the very center. Survival and reproduction is what drives evolution. That's it. You want to survive long enough that you can pass on your genes. And those that are able to survive long enough to pass on your genes, that's what's going to help you be more adapted to that environment. So evolution. We already said earlier what evolution is. Somebody else tell me. When you hear evolution, species changing. Okay. We're going to find out one individual can't change. They can't evolve. It has to be a group. So that's going to be a population that evolves. All right. So what does it mean to be members of the same species? You might think of an example. But what is a species?
The same
Type of organism you are. That's good. Okay. What else do you think? When you think of species, Jaleesa, what do you think of?
a breed.
A breed. Okay. Caleb, anything different for species? Because we're going to talk about what is it special, what's it special about a species. Okay, so the next word, genetic variation within a species. Okay, so I want you to write down one word that means genetic variation to you. Genetic within the genes, and what does variation mean? Think of an example. If you look around the room, we're not clones. We have genetic variation. So write a one word that means variation. Okay. Okay. And then the next word, mutation. So what does it mean for, what are we talking about a mutation? So put down what you think of when you think of a mutation. Might even be an example. Okay. All right. Gene pool. Do y'all have any concept of a gene pool? Have you heard of a gene pool before? That one's harder. What I want you to do is put down what you think it might mean. Just throw something down. Gene pool. Because we're going to use that interchangeably, really, with another word. But gene pool. We say this gene pool changes. But all these words, that's probably the one that sometimes people are like, I don't really know about that, because you probably never really talked about it forever. I don't even think you've gotten it in an earlier class or in science before. All right, population. This is important. So what's a population of organisms? We say this is a population of people. This is a population of yellow jackets, a population of African elephants. All right, and then the last one is competition. What's it mean to compete? Competition, because this is going to drive survival in nature. Competition. If it wasn't for competition, no one would change. It'd just be the same. Okay. All right. So, genetic variation. What do you think it means?
Different DNA.
Differences. Yeah. Be different DNA. Absolutely. So differences. So which type of reproduction gives you genetic variation?
Sexual.
Why sexual?
Because the genes like they swap.
Yep, that's why I have still yet to put these chromosomes. Because during meiosis, your egg and sperm, the DNA just swapped up and crossed over, and they swapped genes, so all your sperm and egg are different. And then your combination is different. Good. All right, a mutation. Alexis, what do you think of with a mutation? You think of a mutation. If I say red hair was caused by mutation, what changed? What caused the hair to change? We'll come back to you. Craig, what's a mutation? When you think of mutation,
Cancer.
can cause cancer. So what's changing?
DNA.
DNA. So you remember this when we said adenine goes with thymine and cytosine goes with guanine? What if something caused the T to swap out with the C? Mutation, right? So a mismatch in DNA, a change in DNA, something, and it may create a whole new gene, or it might actually give you the same protein. It won't matter. Gene pool, what y'all think?
I think a whole bunch of genes that is in the species.
Whole bunch of genes in a species. It's pretty close, very close. What else y'all say? Group of genes. Okay. Yeah, they were very, very close. Probably would combine it and it would be right, honestly. Population. Caleb, what's population?
Growth of all species.
Same species. Group of same species. Have to be the same. That's population. Now, what if we take several populations? We take a population of the eastern gray squirrel outside, and we take all the populations of any American cockroaches, any of black ants, and we take all the yellow jackets, we take all the people, and we all put them in the same area. What do we create? What's bigger than a population, because it's made of different populations? What? A community. That's what a community is. And then that's what is the living part of a biome. Okay, good. All right, competition. So Alexis, I'm coming back to you. What do you think about competition? What's another word for that? What do you think? Competition. Or what does it involve? You've got two basketball teams on the court and they're competing. What are they doing? And what is their goal? What is the goal of competition? To win. So if, you know, you're not going to get a medal or a trophy in nature, but you're going to get to survive. And that's your medal or trophy.
Ms. Thornhill, I think Elizabeth Alvarez.
Okay. All right. So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to try to draw some pictures real quick. And then after that, we'll try to act some of this stuff out. Real briefly, try to get some type of visual in your head that helps you to know some of the terms. The ones that are a little bit more difficult. And then we'll look at some adaptations and you'll have your project. Okay, so here we go. So how evolution occurs. So let's go back and write down what this means. Okay, so you'll see me, I will abbreviate this word just because it's easier to write it out. But for now, evolution. Okay, so this is a change in the genetic makeup of a population over time. Okay, so in the 5 fingers of evolution, they had the cards and they showed, well, random chance changes from one generation to the next can produce evolution. But if there's no change in the gene pool, then there's no evolution. Okay, so let's draw a visual of that. Okay, so let's say our dots equal a fruit fly. Okay, so those little pesky little flies that'll start flying around, I don't know where they come from. They mysteriously show up, but they're out there when you have a piece of fruit that's starting to rot. Those things will start flying around. They look like little gnats. So here's a fruit fly in one color. Okay, so just choose one color, it doesn't matter. Here's generation 1. Okay, in this population of fruit flies. Okay. Fruit flies can either be red or black, okay? That shows genetic variation. In the species. Okay, the fact there's 2 different colors and it's not just one color. So here's generation 1. So let's put 5 black ones and 5 red ones. Okay. Couple of weeks have bred and those have hatched or they've gone through metamorphosis, and now let's say we have 10 black ones. 4, 6, 8, 10, and we have 10 red ones. 6, 7, 8, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay. According to this definition, has evolution occurred? We have 50% black and 50% red. All right, so because we have 5 out of 10 and 5 out of 10. Okay, well, if we have an equal number here, 10 and 10, has evolution occurred? No. So in this generation, we have 10 out of 20 black and 10 out of 20 red, 50-50. No evolution. Okay. Does that make sense? Yes, no? Talk to me. The fact that there's no change. So this is only in one trait, but what we're talking about is in every single trait that the fruit flies have. There'll be no change from generation to generation. Okay? So is it safe to say that from one generation to the next generation to the next generation, that there's always going to be a slight change in the number of individuals for different traits we're going to have? What do you think? Do you think for every single gene, for every single trait from generation to generation, is it possible that there'll be no changes ever? Or do you think there's always going to be a slight change in something?
There always gonna be a slight change.
So evolution happens all the time. This is what evolution is not. Okay, so now let's talk about how evolution happens. Okay, so we're going to use the same fruit flies. All right, so let's say, so how evolution occurs. Is generation one. Actually, let's not even do generation one. We've already done generation one. So after generation one, instead of us getting this, let's say that the black ones all decide to reproduce because they like each other better. Non-random mating. So the black ones reproduce, and we get 14 black ones. 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Less of the red ones reproduce, and we only get 6 red ones. Did evolution occur?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the black ones chose each other to reproduce. The red ones just kind of barely, I think 1 or 2 of them might have reproduced. So the reproductive rate was higher with the black ones. So yeah, so we've got, what you said, 14 out of 20 are now black. So 70% B, 30% red, evolution occurred. Because the genetic makeup of the population changed. Okay? Does that make sense? Jaleesa, you good? Craig, you good? So when people question whether or not you should teach evolution, I'm thinking, wait a second, this is evolution. People try to impose all these other outside theories and opinions and belief systems on a definition that is, this is what real evolution is. Okay, this is what we have to understand too. So is it only occurs on a population level. Okay, so only a population evolves because the group's genetic makeup changes. Okay, and that group is that species, that one species. So what does it mean to be the member of the same species? If we're the member of the same species, then what, why?
We have
Similar genes, okay, so organisms with similar genes, and we're talking very similar, so similar that if we chose, what could we do with each other? What do we naturally do? Mate. So if we put human eggs and human sperm in a petri dish, the proteins on the egg and the sperm would match up and they would fuse and then they could fertilize. All right, what if we put a horse and a donkey?
I think they'll fertilize.
They're close enough genetically that they'll fertilize, but now that little embryo will be a mule. That mule is sterile. It can't make more babies. The same is true with other hybrids that have been made, the sheep, the goat, the geep, and the zebra and the zorse, the horse. So that's what's different. So organisms with similar genes naturally interbreed, but there's one more thing, is they have to be able to produce fertile offspring. So their babies have to be able to produce babies and produce fertile offspring. Fertile, can't spell. Fertile offspring. Okay, so those are the rules of being the members of the same species. So the definition is broken down into 3 parts. Okay. So a population evolves because it's members of the same species living together. The genetic makeup changes from one generation to the next. Okay, so let's list how that happens. The first one we've already done, the non-random mating. We said, Elizabeth, that the black fruit flies chose to reproduce with each other. The red ones, only 2 reproduced. And that's why evolution occurred, is because the genetic makeup changed. Okay, so from this generation to this generation, the first time they equally reproduced, this time didn't. So in nature, do you think individuals are choosy of who they mate with? Yeah. So when you make your animal, think about the courtship behaviors you want them to have. How are they going to attract a mate? You may not show it on your animal, or you might want to show it. In the past, people said, well, the male has this big ring around its eye that it kind of blinks its eye at the female. Okay. It may have a big, like a peacock, a big spray of feathers that come out like that. Or in your paper, you just write about what it can do or what it does to attract a mate. So you can be creative when it comes to that. So non-random, all right, let's just list them. The first one was non-random mating. You're choosing. Choosing, I guess. Is that how you spell choosing? All right, so you choose certain individuals to reproduce with. All right, second one, gene flow. Is it safe to say that these fruit flies aren't just going to like stay in the same little bunch all the time? Do you think some of them are going to fly off? Yes, they're going to leave their group and go somewhere else. That's what gene flow is. So gene flow is migration from one population to another. So when you do that, you're taking your genes with you. So now the whole gene pool just changed. So if we go back and we say, okay, well, this, these red fruit flies took off and went somewhere. Well, now there's not as many of red ones. They left. Now it leaves just these to reproduce. So it all, this happens all the time with people too. Some people stay in the same community their whole lives. Other people don't. So when you see the word immigration like this, does that mean you go into a new population, or are you leaving a population? And then there's immigration with an E. So one means to exit, one means to enter. Think about that. If we have immigrants coming to our country, they're entering. So you go into. But when you immigrate, you also immigrate with the E because you're leaving your old population. So this is exit. So either way, you're affecting the gene pool that you just came from. Your gene pool is your population. Okay, so that's the second way. A third way is mutation. So what if now our population of fruit flies has a third color to pop up. Okay, so we're going to put that in there. So mutation. Add new genes. New. To the population, which is the gene pool. Okay, so here's our fruit flies. Let's say we've got our 5 red ones and our 5 black ones. And now we've got a blue one that popped up. There's our new gene that popped up. Well, if we have a blue environment, if you're near the water, that might help you out. It depends. Some of these new genes might be favorable. Others might not be. What if your mutation is makes you slower? And you're going to have to be able to be fast in your population. What's going to happen to you if you get the slow mutation?
You gonna die.
Yeah, because you only have to be faster than somebody else, so they can be caught by the predator. But eventually it might catch up with you. You might be slower in this group. So that could be an example of a mutation. We know that blonde and blue and green and red, all those colors that are in our population of people, all were mutations at some point. So it does make sense that fair-skinned people, red-headed people, migrated from the equator or from Africa and migrated up to a place where the sun wasn't as intense. Makes sense. Okay. All right. Number 4 is genetic drift. All right. And this is reducing the population size with a random, or let's say by a random event. And it's usually, so right here, so let's say we've got our 5 black ones and our 5 red ones, and we've got our mutant in there. What could all of a sudden happen to these fruit flies? That would be random, bless you, that would take them out of their population, kill them. What can I do? What can I do at my house? All these fruit flies are flying around my fruit. Kill them. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to take a fly swatter. And I'm going to kill whatever I hit. I'm going to slam them on the counter of my in my kitchen. So now that left 3 red, 2 black, and a blue. So I just wiped out half the population. Well, now who do we have more of that's going to reproduce? The blue's still in there, but now we've got more red than black. So now evolution just is going to occur because I changed the genetic makeup of that population just by doing that. Same thing happens when you're like, oh, there's an ant. Genetic drift. Or you hit a squirrel with your car. Or someone randomly shoots something or sprays bug spray. Or if there is a big tornado that comes through and it wipes out a whole section of woods. Okay, so, these can be natural disasters. It can be, poison. It can be some random hunter coming out there and shooting. It could be car wrecks. I mean, anything that would randomly remove somebody from their population. So whatever it is, that's genetic drift. and it reduced their population size to something smaller. And then the very last one is natural selection. And this is when nature selects the individuals that are the best adapted to survive, okay? So, bless you. So nature selects, and that means the organisms there too, those best adapted, those with the best adaptations. To survive and pass on their genes. So let's say the red ones were faster flyers, and maybe that's why they didn't get caught as easily. They're going to pass on their faster genes to the next generation. That's natural selection. Okay? So that's it with that.